God bless all you fantastic miracles with a spiritual level being, my fellow children of God, my fellow brothers and sisters. Today, the continue on of the War Scroll Part 2. Share this around so people can join. Okay. Charts. Share. Copy and paste. We can share this all around. Okay. Almost done. There we go. Almost done. Cool. Okay, we're going to have to do last share. Okay. Cool. All right, so let us begin this text. So last time we were amongst the ranks of the angelic army. Well, we're still continuing on with the angelic army, and it's going to get interesting now because we're not just talking about banners, we're now moving on to the shields, we're moving into God's cavalry. So within this Essene scrolls, we have those joining either the ranks of God's angelic choir, as also previously mentioned in the last video, and also the banners. Now we're moving on to shields. So let us go read this text. So either the angelic choir, choir that the Essenes believed that one could join, or the angelic angels that were the warriors. So the Essenes also anointed their own commanders and had their own commanders, lieutenants, and generals. And blessings, by the way, Chabel. And on the shield of the leader of whom the whole nation, they shall write his name, the names Israel, Levi, and Aaron, and the names of the 12 tribes of Israel according to their order of birth, and the names of the 12 chiefs of their tribes. So here we're having the 12 tribes of Israel being ruled over by the Messiah. Now the Essenes had two Messiahs. They in turn had the priest and the king. All right. The rule for arranging the divisions for war when their army is complete. To make a forward battle line, the battle line shall be formed of 1,000 men. There shall be 7 forward rows to each battle line arranged in order. The station of each man behind his fellow, all of them shall bear shields of bronze polished like a face mirror. The shield shall be bound with a border of plated work and a design of loops, the work of a skillful workman, gold, silver, and bronze bound together, and jewels, a multicolored brocade. It is work of a skillful workman, artistically done. The length of the shield shall be 2.5 cubits, and its breadth a cubit and a half. In their hands they shall hold a lance and a sword. Now these are the angels. So we have measurements of their shields. This is a full prophecy text of what's going to go down in the last days, and including the final battle of Armageddon, of the apocalypse within the Essene beliefs. The length of the lance shall be 7 cubits, of which the socket and the blade constitute half a cubit. On the socket there shall be 3 bands engraved as a border of painted work of gold, silver, and copper bound together like an artistically designed work. So here we have the mentioning even their shields, their swords, their lances will be decorated and will be as if they were done by an expert or an expert craftsman. So being crafted in heaven. So the Essenes believed at the last battle, the angels in turn would help them. Now, this is why many Essenes and some zealot cults ultimately lost the battles against Rome, because their ultimate backup plan was for the angels to step in and fight alongside them. All right. Now, this Qumran Essene group fought alongside the zealots against Rome during the Jewish war, the Jewish revolt, to which they will be expelled and massacred. And in the loops of the sign, of the design, sorry, the way they've put the text, it's like a D and then it's sign. Don't like it when they do that. Just keep the word Hoss. Makes it difficult to read. It's like some of your texts are small enough. Okay. On both sides of the band all around shall be precious stones, a multicolored brocade, the work of a skillful workman, artistically done, and an ear of grain. The socket shall be grooved between the bands like a column, artistically done. There's a lot of artistically dones here. So sorry for that. You find this within ancient text, a lot of repeats. You find it especially within the Epic Gilgamesh, and including also the Egyptian Book of the Dead, lots of repeats. The blade shall be of shining white iron, the work of a skillful workman, artistically done again, and an ear of grain of pure gold inlaid in the blade, tapered towards the point. The swords shall be of refined iron, purified in the furnace and polished like a face mirror, the work of a skillful workman, artistically done. Again, artistically done. This is the only thing I don't really like with some ancient texts. There's so many repeats. I feel funny repeating it so far. With figures of ears of grain, the pure gold embossed on both sides, the borders shall go straight to the point, 2 on each side. The length of the sword shall be a cubit and a half, and its width 4 fingers. The scabbard shall be 4 thumbs wide and 4 hand breadths up to the scabbard. The scabbard shall be tied on either side with thongs of 5 hand breadths. The handle of the sword shall be of choice horn, the work of a skillful workman, a varicolored design with gold and silver and precious stones. Okay, it was slightly different then. I was going to say, come on. So again, this is the weapons of the angels, full on mentioned in great detail, their measurements, their length. The Essenes were very big on being very graphically designed, or very much explained on everything, like in measurement wise. Even their temple is what they believed to which they would redecorate was measured as well. So they definitely had some building knowledge as well. All right, let us continue. And when the bits missing take their stand, they shall arrange 7 battle lines, one behind the other. Now again, because these are angels, they're also ordered by God to take their positions underneath the orders of the angels, who in turn are under the orders of God. So just like we see in battles. So the Essenes also had ranks within their members, and they believed that this would be the same as the angels, believing that many of our ideas were in turn copied by the angelic realms and in turn also taught by fallen angels. So they had a big belief of Enoch, for instance, the Essenes. And remember, there's different forms of Essenes. They were a mystic Jewish sect with different beliefs to one another. And there shall be a space between, bits missing, 30 cubits, where the infantry shall stand. So we have God's infantry, the shield bearers. We have those who in turn bring the banners and those who bring the trumpets. It's going to get bigger than this. We're also going to see God's cavalry. All right, so this next bit's missing. Forward. More bits missing and more bits missing. They shall sling, so even slingers, 7 times and return to their position. After them, 3 divisions of infantry. So imagine that, swinging angels, that slinging stuff. And with the swinging, pun intended. All right, and stand between the battle lines. The first division shall heave into the enemy battle line 7 battle darts. So they've even got ones that throw darts. Like these aren't little darts you're playing at a dart. These are big, massive things going. So this is pretty in-depth, pretty crazy. On the blade of the first dart they shall write, flash of a spear from the strength of God. So this is the weapons of the angels. So they are divinely inscribed with words of power. They in turn can do greater damage than what any mortal weapon can do. On the second weapon they shall write, missiles of blood to fell the slain by the wrath of God. Now, regarding this text, no doubt some of this Essene movements and the Zealots would have converted into Islam and thus bringing these stories in with them. So we see this tradition carried on with them too. On the third dart they shall write, the blade of a sword devours the slain of wickedness by the judgment of God. Each of these shall throw 7 times and then return to their position. After these 2 divisions of infantry shall march forth and stand between the 2 battle lines. The first division equipped with a spear and a shield, and the second division with a shield and a sword, to bring down the slain by the judgment of God. So this is all under God's will as well, so to destroy the wicked. And those who in turn are not destroyed in this battle that were opponents of God will be judged and then condemned for their wickedness. So some will rest in Sheol. Not every one that rests in Sheol in turn will join Belial or fight against God. Some in Sheol will be redeemed. To subdue the battle line of the enemy by the power of God, and to render recompenses for their evil for all their vainglorious nations, or vainglorious Gentiles as well could be the text. So the kingship shall belong to the God of Israel, and by the holy ones of his people he shall act powerfully. Okay. So we have here a very in-depth battle of Armageddon, of the forces of light versus the forces of darkness, or God's angels versus the fallen angels and the forces of this world that in turn rebel against God. So the Gentile kingdoms fighting against the kingdom of Israel, or the Judean people, or the Israelites. So next is the description of the deployment of the cavalry, so the cavalry of God. So it is a very interesting text, this is. You can see how many Jews viewed the apocalypse during the time of Jesus and before. Ah, lovely to have a drink. Water is life. The descriptions of the deployment of the cavalry. All right, so let's read this text. 7 rows of horsemen. So again, this shouldn't be of any surprise, especially with horsemen, the horsemen of the apocalypse. This is where it ultimately comes from. So this will be those that converted into Christianity, that in turn would have carried on with their beliefs within the edits of Revelation. Okay. Shall also take their position at the right and at the left of the battle line. So we have where every position is basically laid upon. So the Essenes are expecting exactly how the end of the world is going to take place, from the battle lines of God's positioning, from the gates of heaven opening up on the last moments, and all sorts. Their ranks shall be positioned on both sides, 700 horsemen on one side and 700 on the other. 200 horsemen shall go out with 1,000 men of the battle line of the infantry, and thus they shall take position on all sides of the camps, the total being 4,600 men and 1,400 cavalry for the entire army arranged for the battle line, 50 for each battle line. The horsemen with the cavalry of the men of the entire army, this is God's army too, will be 6,500 to a tribe. So every tribe that is fighting in this last battle will be assigned an angelic army, basically, to watch over them. So an angelic cohort. So we have the cavalry, the infantry, the ones who are playing the trumpets, carrying the banners. We have those bearing the shields, all positioned on each tribe of Israel, basically. And after this battle, the 12 tribes who will be ruled by the Messiah in turn will judge over the Gentiles. So it's very interesting, but in turn they'll be ruled over by the Essene community, who will in turn ruled over by the Messiah. So again, we have ranks within the people, and not just this, but ranks within God's army. So the divine council, the Essenes, who in turn become the angels, take place in God's court. Very fascinating. All the cavalry that go out to battle with the infantry shall ride stallions, swift, responsive, unrelenting, mature, trained for battle, and accustomed to hearing noises and seeing all kinds of scenes. So this is in regarding to a cavalry within God's army, even having horses that in turn have been trained. So we have battle training going on in heaven as well. Very, very unique. Those who ride them shall be men capable in battle, trained in horsemanship, the range of their age from 30 to 45 years. The horsemen of the army shall be from 40 to 50 years old, and they, bits missing. So here we're having the cavalry being appointed amongst the Essene members that in turn are fighting alongside the angels. Gifted weapons and gifted also horses. Helmets and greaves carrying in their hands, round shields and a lance 8 cubits long, more bits missing and more bits missing, and a bow and arrows and battle darts, all of them prepared in, more bits missing and more bits missing, and the shed the blood of their guilty slain. These are, ending bit missing. So now the recruitment and the age of the soldiers. So this apocalyptic text is very in detailed. It is a prophecy that is foretold, and of which these people that rebelled against Rome believed that God would assist them. So something that Esoterica brought up on this channel, which is really cool. If your battle plans are to rely on God helping you out in the last minute, well, then it's best to stay home. Now, Josephus also warned against doomsday religions in turn that were fighting, blaming these people on what would bring about the destruction of Rome. So blaming the zealots, of which some of them were Essenes, and blaming these groups, those who fought. Though he did not mind some Essenes, he disliked some of them too, as he was a Pharisee. All right, so the recruitment of the age of soldiers, column 7, start is missing. And the men of the army shall be from 40 to 50 years old. The commissioners of the camps shall be from 50 to 60 years old. The officers shall also be from 40 to 50 years old. All those who strip the slain, plunder the spoil, cleanse the land, guard the arms, and he who prepares the provisions, all these shall be from 25 to 30 years old. No youth nor woman shall enter their encampments from the time they leave Jerusalem to go out to battle until their return. Now, this group was a group of celibate men. That's why the mention of no women. So they would not participate in this battle, as it was a place for men to be in war. So the ages of people, these are those who have been appointed by God, and in turn also those who passed away at this age of the angels of which. So this text is very detailed. So again, those who are of certain age are being appointed to lead certain cohorts in honoring of God. So even some were even seen to be commanders in their own rights. So again, these Essene community leaders in turn would be amongst God's council. So they would have greater honors than other Israelites. To go out to battle until their return. No one crippled, blind, or lame, nor a man who has permitted blemish on his skin, or a man affected with ritual uncleanness of flesh. None of these shall go with them to battle. So those who are ritually pure, purified, spiritually pure, and also those who are just pure in regards of flesh. So the Essenes of this particular faction were not full on in the sense close to Jesus, as Jesus did not care about if one was suffering from skin blemishes. He would preach them and go out to heal them. So this is very ancient Judean in regarding to the corruption of the flesh, in the believing of that being corrupted before God. The mystics had an opposite idea that all flesh was corrupt and it was the spirit that was pure, which is one reason why the Gnostics and mystics were much more equality based than this Qumran Essene community. So they in turn could not become priests having these blemishes. They carried on these traditions as these Essenes were a part of the high priesthood that was exiled out of the temple when the Yahweh cult would take over, as this group still worships El Elyon. However, they worship other gods in a sense because they believe that El Elyon has children and Yahweh is amongst one of the judges. So we have ranks of angels. So again, because these people could not, in regarding to skin blemishes or defects, could not partake in being a priest, they in turn could not partake in being a part of this angelic army. They in turn were denied from temple offerings as well in a lot of cases. So this was an extreme sect. Okay. Now also regarding these Essenes and some Zealot ones, these particular group, along with the Zealots, would not have liked Jesus. They in turn would persecute early Christians, trying to get them to fight alongside them when they fought Rome. This is why many Christians were exiled instead of outright killed. However, some were killed because they were just regarded as Jewish by the Romans. Okay. None of these shall go with them to battle. All of them shall be volunteers for battle, pure of spirit and flesh, and prepared for the day of vengeance. Any man who is not ritually clean in respect to his genitals on the day of battle shall not go down with them into battle, for holy angels are present with their army. Now, this was very important for the Essenes, their ritual baptism. In this community, it wasn't so much to be ritually pure, but it was to be ritually pure to join the angelic army or the angelic choir. It was very different with other, say, Essene sects such as the Therapeutae or the Magharia, which are regarded as Gnostic Jews, to be spiritually pure in order to ascend to heaven. They were not ones of a so much doomsday battle or a judging God. Some did have an end apocalypse day, as we have different sects, so different forms of Judaisms. There shall be a distance between all their camps and the latrine about 2,000 cubits, and no shameful nakedness shall be seen in the environs of all their camps. I think that's meant to say environments, and I think they misspelled it. All right. The ministry of the priest and the Levites, or ministry of priest and Levites. This for 25 minutes, not too bad. This one's a bit bigger, this chapter. So yeah, very interesting text. Now, this group was very not only different to Jesus, but it was also different to John the Baptist. No doubt, I believe they would have been a form of Essenes or a mystic sect. However, this group would be very different. They would be much more zealot. When the battle lines are arranged against the enemy, battle line against battle line, there shall go forth from the middle opening into the gap between the battle lines 7 priests of the sons of Aaron, dressed in fine white linen garments, a linen tunic and linen breeches, and girded with a linen sash of twinned fine linen violet, purple, and crimson, and vari-coloured design. So this would also be similar to their baptism cloaks to represent their spiritual pureness. But however, this is endowed with a heavenly garment. So a tunic from heaven. As yes, in some beliefs, heaven had clothes. All right. Linen breeches and girded with a linen sash of twined fine linen violet, purple, and crimson, and a vari-coloured design. The work of a skillful workman, and decorated caps on their heads, the garments for battle, and they shall not take them into the sanctuary. So again, being wonderfully woven, just like the weapons, wonderfully designed, as if an expert craftsman designed them. So crafted in heaven. So everything in heaven is perfect, no flaws in it, no defects. The one priest shall walk before all the men of the battle line to encourage them for the battle. Now, these are the Essene high priest. Their priesthood, in turn, would be given rank in God's angelic court and over the battle lines, who in turn would be giving orders even to angels. In the hands of the remaining 6 shall be the trumpets of assembly, the trumpets of memorial, the trumpets of the alarm, the trumpets of pursuit, and the trumpets of assembly. So again, this will be amongst the angelic choir that in turn sing the war drums or the war choirs during the battle of Armageddon. Okay. When the priests go out into the gap between the battle lines, 7 Levites shall go out with them. In their hands shall be 7 trumpets of ram horns. 3 officers from among the Levites shall walk before the priest and the Levites. The priest shall blow the 2 trumpets of assembly. So it's even what prophesies what the humans are going to be doing as well. So not just angels, but everything. This is a full-on apocalyptic prophecy. So more bits are missing. Of battle upon 50 shields and 50 infantrymen shall go out from one gate, and it's missing. Levite officers with each battle line, they shall go out according to all this order. It's missing. Men of the infantry from the gates, and they shall take position between the 2 battle lines, and it's missing. The battle, bits missing. Now, Oren column 8. The trumpet shall blow continually to direct the slingmen until they have completed hurling 7 times. Afterwards, the priest shall blow on the trumpets of return, and they shall go along the side of the first battle line to take their position. Now, the Jewish people also had slingers within their army, slinging stones like King David or King David. Now, they in turn, this would be replicated within the angels too. So they would use slings in order to fight the Romans, especially from the towers. They would throw rocks as well, trying to keep the Romans at bay, who in turn had great siege engines. And instead of climbing, they had basically a giant ladder to carry them straight up so they could go straight fight the Jewish people because of the high basically gates and walls that King Herod built. He really fortified the area. The priest shall blow on the trumpets of assembly, and the 3 divisions of infantry shall go out from the gates and stand between the battle lines, and beside them the cavalrymen, at the right and at the left. The priest shall blow on their trumpets a level note, signals for the order of battle, and the columns shall be deployed into their formations, each to his position. When they have positioned themselves in 3 formations, the priest shall blow for them a second signal. A low legato note signals for advance until they draw near to the battle line of the enemy and take hold of their weapons. Then the priest shall blow on the 6 trumpets of the slain a sharp statico note to direct the battle, and the Levites and all the people with ram horns, shall blow a great battle alarm together in order to melt the heart of the enemy. So even the trumpets have power, disheartening those who oppose God. So as God can also harden the hearts, he can weaken the hearts of individuals. So within this text, the Essenes were basically stating that, yeah, the times are bad now, but hang on, God's going to pull his plan to fruition. The end of the world's going to take place. The earth's going to be renewed. Now, some Essenes didn't have this belief. Rather, the soul is what would enter heaven, not the flesh. But again, different sects. So this group believed, in turn, they would win the last battle, the temple would be reclaimed, and they in turn would start sacrificing again. So these weren't full-on vegetarians. They were vegetarian, but they believed until the last day. However, some did eat meat, some smaller sects. As we had different sects, some were pescatarian. When people talk about Essenes, they usually just mish them all together and say, all right, they're one group. But no, they're not. They're different individual sects. Argued that some shouldn't be called Essene, but it's the easiest way to go about them. Rather, I guess you should say mystic or even proto-Gnostic or Gnostic Jews. A great battle alarm together in order to melt the heart of the enemy. With the sound of the alarm, the battle darts shall fly out to bring down the slain. Then the sound of the ram horns shall quiet, but on the trumpets the priest shall continue to blow a sharp statico note to direct the signals of battle, until they have hurled into the battle line of the enemy 7 times. Afterwards, the priest shall blow for them the trumpets of retreat, a low note, level and legato. According to this rule, the priest shall blow for the 3 divisions. When the first division throws, the priest and the Levites and all the people with ram horns, or ram's horns, shall blow a great alarm to direct the battle until they have hurled 7 times. Afterwards, the priest shall blow for them on the trumpets of retreat. It's missing. And they shall take their stand in their positions in the battle line. It's missing. And shall take up their position. It's missing. The slain and all the people with ram's horns shall blow a very loud battle alarm. And as the sound goes out, now we're in column 9, their hands shall begin to bring down the slain, and all the people shall quiet the sound of alarm, but the priest shall continue sounding on the trumpets of the slain to direct the fighting, until the enemy is defeated and turns in retreat. The priest shall blow the alarm to direct the battle, and when they have been defeated before them, the priest shall blow the trumpets of assembly, and all the infantry shall go out to them from the midst of the front battle lines and stand 6 divisions in addition to the division which is engaged in battle. Altogether, 7 battle lines, 28,000 soldiers, and 6,000 horsemen. So again, within this text, we have the numbers of the army, we have also what's inscribed into weapons, what's inscribed into the banners, inscribed into the trumpets. Everything here is in full detail. They were expecting every drop of this to happen. This was a prophecy for the Essenes. Now, they were also known to take out bits of the Torah and reflect it for a modern world in their times in order to fulfill prophecy, or seeing how prophecy would be fulfilled now. All these shall pursue in order to destroy the enemy in God's battle. A total annihilation. So the forces of darkness will be totally destroyed. Belial, who is basically the one who would basically be replaced by Satan, basically, amongst Christianity and some forms of Judaism, would be destroyed. So we even have Jesus stating with Satan, just meaning the adversary falling from heaven. We have him calling the God of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Herodians the devil. This was Yahweh. Now, he believed that this God was the leader of fallen angels, the one who was in charge of the world's corruption, not the actual world itself, but the world's corruption. So different to these Essenes in regards to that. Now, Simon Magus, who was baptized by Philip, a disciple of Jesus, he also believed that Yahweh was the leader of the fallen angels. However, he believed that Yahweh created this earth. So I think he misunderstood the disciples, or Philip, who was taught by Jesus, in regarding to rule of the material world, to actually physically being the creator of the material world, not the corruption in it. All right, let's continue this text. The priest shall blow for them the trumpets of pursuit, and they shall divide themselves for a pursuit of annihilation against all the enemy. The cavalry shall push the enemy back at the flanks of the battle until they are destroyed. When the slain have fallen, the priest shall continue blowing from afar and shall not enter into the midst of the slain, so as to be defiled by their unclean blood, for they are holy. They shall not allow the oil of their priestly anointment to be profaned with blood of the vainglorious nations. So they are keeping pure. They are standing aside out of the battle of the priest, so that way their anointing oil is not corrupted by the blood of the enemies, because they are impure. So the Essenes were big on purification. It was necessary to be purified and spiritually pure, and also abstinent, so practicing abstinence, so celibacy. It was ultimately necessary for this in order to join the ranks of the angels and to be a part of God's council, in order to be purified. So, something else I want to mention regarding to this too, their belief of Belial ruling over the underworld. Very interesting. So, ruling over Abaddon, the place of torment. So, in turn, would pull out these souls to fight in these battles, while the other souls would be in Sheol, resting until the day of judgment. So Abaddon was a place of torment, separate from Sheol, the lowest of the low. Now, as far as I can see with Jesus, when he mentions Gehenna, he's not mentioning about a ruler ruling over it. I see the belief of Satan ruling over the underworld coming from this Essene belief of Belial ruling over the underworld. So we definitely see these reflections within Christianity, as these would have also been amongst the followers of Jesus. No doubt some of these Essene groups, not saying this particular group as a whole, I mean individual people that would have been a part of this group that chose to leave and follow Jesus, would have been amongst the first Christians. That's why we even have found some Christian texts within these caves that were also discovered within the Dead Sea Scrolls, or possible Christian text at least. Scholars argue, as there are different dates because they were written by different communities. So the next one is the description of the maneuvers of the battle divisions. So everything is mentioned in this text, basically, of the entire battle. So we get to see the law within the Essene beliefs. Not many people have read this text. They'll talk about it. Someone call me. Just quickly go answer this. Hang on 2 seconds. Just my dad. Hey, Steph. Yeah, I'll just do it on my chat and I'll unlock the door for you. All right. Let us continue the text. Where we at? So now we're in the description of the maneuvers of the battle divisions. So how they're going to maneuver the angels, how the battle is going to take place. And no, it did not go the way they expected. Instead, they end up throwing rocks on top of the walls of Jerusalem, basically, the Romans, and taken out only to have their text left there, which they would have no doubt were hoping to reclaim, but were not able to do so. And great idea, Charbel. Taking notes is fantastic for this. And I just noticed the comments. And blessings to Julia. God bless all of you. Thank you. Cheers. Sometimes I get nervous about my voice. Okay. Especially having a slight speech impediment and having Asperger's. So, show must go on, though. Someone has to speak about some of this stuff. Not many people will speak about it out of shyness and also out of fear of ridicule. Now, it's a shame many scholars avoid this stuff too, which kind of sucks. Now, in regarding to Dead Sea Scrolls, some of it was written in Aramaic, some of it was written in Greek and in Hebrew. So different communities, different speakers. Now, not everyone that was Jewish could speak Hebrew. Some could only speak Greek, some could only speak Aramaic, others could speak all three. Now, there were different forms of the Aramaic dialect as well. Not all could communicate with each other. Rule for changing the order of the battle divisions in order to arrange their positions against, it's missing, a pincer movement and towers, and arc and towers, and as it draws slowly forward, then the columns and the ranks go out from the two sides of the battle line, that the enemy might become discouraged. The shields of the soldiers of the towers shall be 3 cubits long, and their lances 8 cubits long. The towers shall go out from the battle line with 100 shields on a side, for they shall surround the tower on the 3 frontal sides. 300 shields in all. There shall be 3 gates to a tower, one on the right and one on the left. Upon all the shields of the tower soldiers, they shall write on the first, Michael, on the second, Gabriel, on the third, Sariel, on the fourth, Raphael, Michael and Gabriel on the right, and Sariel and Raphael on the left. So here we have, again, the angels taking place in this battle. So these will be amongst the guardian angels, amongst God's court. So this is interesting because we not only have gods being mentioned in this text, we have the Most High God and we have angels too. Very interesting. So we have El, most likely we have Yahweh being the judger and a lieutenant of sorts, along with these angels. Now, I want to mention also that some ancient Jewish people believed that the angels created this earth. Not all had this belief. Some even believed the demiurge created this earth. The Margaria believed that Yahweh was a demiurge, a lieutenant under the Most High God that didn't quite know the Most High God, but under the orders of the Most High, created this earth. However, the Most High God knew that this demiurge along with his angels in turn he would create, would mess up. This was all the divine plan in order to return the world back to its original spiritual state, and in turn ascend up the souls beyond even the demiurge, that in turn would rule amongst them. So in turn ruling over the demiurge and ruling over the angels, that in turn ruling over the earth. Very crazy. All right. And bits missing. 4 to the 4 bits missing. They shall establish an ambush for the battle line of bits missing, and more bits missing. They shall fall on the slain, more bits missing. Well, ending bits missing. So even the angelic ranks and God's army would ambush the forces of darkness, as it was also seen that the forces of darkness would outnumber the forces of light. However, God could dishearten them as God was ultimately victorious. So, yeah, very, very interesting. So this is what this belief was, you know. And even the idea of Armageddon, it's a lifting of a veil. This is why we had Jews that did not believe the world was ending, but rather the Roman world was ending, or a new era, a transitioning and change, and the end of pagan religions. Very interesting in regard to this. So these Essenes, just like the Gnostic Jews of the time, believed that the pagan gods were fallen angels or evil unclean spirits, or just idols, man-made. That's crazy. Now, this group here believed that Belial was leader of the fallen angels. Gnostics, either Yahweh, being the demiurge, or the devil. Now, the only group to believe in the devil using this title were Gnostic Jews. This figure in this text is Belial. So if we go to the Wisdom of Solomon, we find the devil actually being mentioned. This was a mystic Jewish belief within Alexandria, Egypt. It was also stated that Jesus went to Alexandria with his family or fled to Egypt. So, very interesting. Not only this, but there were also Jews that lived in Egypt that would travel to the Holy Lands as pilgrimages. Many Jews went to do a pilgrimage, walking to the Holy Lands. They still do their walking pilgrimages even today. But again, many Christians have forgotten their old Jewish roots because they split away from Judaism and also from their Gnostic roots. Thus, we have Catholicism and Orthodoxy of today. So the addresses of the chief priest. The next one. So column 10, and the start is missing. And blessings, by the way, Dragon Virgo. And also, interesting name, Lucifer Lucero. Lightbringer. Now, so before I read this, Lucifer did not actually appear until the 4th century Latin Vulgate. It's a very big misunderstanding from, one, the word Lightbringer, but it's a misunderstanding from the Babylonian king that fell from God's grace, who in turn would fall like a morning star and have his kingdom taken over by Cyrus the Great, who was also recognized as a Messiah figure before Jesus. And shalom, shalom. All right. Of our camps, and to keep ourselves from any shameful nakedness, and he, Moses. Now, Moses would also be amongst this last Armageddon battle. Now, regarding Moses, Simon Magus believed that Jesus would replace Moses as God's word, God's authority, God's logos. So some Gnostics upheld Moses in a very special place. Not all, though. Told us that you are in our midst, a great and awesome God, plundering all of our enemies before us. He taught us from old through all our generations, saying, when you approach the battle, the priest shall stand and speak unto the people, saying, hear, O Israel, you are approaching the battle against your enemies today. Do not be afraid nor faint-hearted. Do not tremble nor be terrified because of them, for your God goes with you to fight for you against your enemies and to save you. Our officers shall speak to all those prepared for battle, those willing of heart, to strengthen them by the might of God, to turn back all who have lost heart, and to strengthen all the valiant warriors together. they shall recount that which you spoke by the hand of Moses, saying, and when there is a war in your land against the adversary who attacks you, then you shall sound an alarm with the trumpets, that you might remember before your God and be saved from your enemies. Okay, so could you imagine the Jewish revolt? We had the Essenes and Zealots, even some Pharisees, because they got dragged into the war as well, with some Sadducees fighting against Rome for the defense of themselves, because the Zealots just launched this rebellion against them, forcing their hand. You could imagine them shouting out, "Fear not," at the final bit of their ending, that God was going to save them, expecting God's hand, and they were massacred. Many were even enslaved, calling out for it. So, yeah, hang on, Ethan. So this was their ultimate battle plan, was to fight against Rome until God intervened. That was their final backup plan, and their texts were left in the cave in order to only be discovered in our day and age, because they were left there unclaimed. So thank you everyone who was here joining me on this discussion. I wish you all many blessings. May the Most High God bless all of you fantastic miracles with abundance, love, and gnosis. Answer all of your prayers. Peace and love, and goodbye. Thank you, everyone. Blessings.